Hey guys, Matt here, Louda Created, with the Datsun 620 build. Just here on a Saturday morning. I come to work real early. The guys next door are actually still up drinking, which is pretty funny. But yeah, so I haven't done a video in a while. I actually wrecked my camera. I haven't had a chance to get a new one, and also just been real busy with other work, so haven't bothered to do much, but trying to get back onto the ute. I've done a little bit of work on it, not a lot. Some other things that I'm working on at the moment in the workshop. It's got this R34, I'm doing a bunch of work on that. Also got this pretty wicked big block supercharged HQ Monaro, some massive Simmons on it. So I have got a shortened brand new 4.9-inch diff housing made up. So I'm in the process of mini tubbing the rear of that and do a 4-link and coilover setup on it. So pretty wicked bit of kit. Need to get on and finish that off for the customer, but as for this morning, I'm going to try and get a little bit of stuff done on the ute. If you're on my Instagram, you would have seen that I've made up these sections of chassis rail, just the outer skin. It's just the outer skin of this section of chassis rail here that is going to step up to help the steering come through and make these brackets shorter. So I actually had to just run the guys next door home because they come stumbling over and wanted to lift to get home to bed, so that's all good. So I did that. Yeah, so this obviously steps the chassis rail up so the steering can go through and the brackets up here can be shorter and look a bit better. Plus it looks cool, and yeah, it looks cool. Also have played around and drawn and started to make the front arms. So this is the pieces. This is what I've ended up with, which I'm real happy with. This has a rose joint to go on the end of it. Haven't welded any of that together yet, just picked it up to test it out, but real stoked with that. That's all just straight off the cutter. Haven't had to modify any of it, just a couple folds and tack it all together. Came out real nice, so happy as with that. I've played around and made some spacers for the rose joints. I've also got some some tapered roller bearings to make up the housing for the rocker. So probably going to do that this morning, have a play on the lathe, make that up. I might just grab those bearings and I'll talk you through that. Yeah, so these are the bearings that I'm going to use for the rocker. They're absolutely massive, but for road legal LVV cert, I think I'm just overbuilding everything, because last thing I want them to do is have a moan about the strength and durability. So I went to the bearing shop and chatted to the guy. He sort of had a bunch of options, but a lot of them were quite sort of small. It's probably the best option, and what I've done in the past is use a needle roller bearing with some thrust bearings on either side of it, but it's all quite sort of small stuff, lightweight type thing. So I wanted to just go with something grunty, and these are actually the part number correlates to the kingpin on like a Hilux or something, so I can say to LVV that these are used in a practical sense on a very similar type part in a way heavier vehicle, so they'll be fit for purpose. So that was sort of the idea behind that. They're obviously massive and not going to look as nice, but that's the reason that I went with these. So these actually have a seal integrated into them as well. So I'll make up a housing for those And I think because of the way they're designed as well, I can get away with only having single shear, even though they've told me to make it double shear for side loading. I can argue that these are practically a wheel bearing, so a wheel bearing doesn't have double shear, so hopefully I can get away with that. So that will be good. And then, like I say, I have the rose joints and have made up some spaces for the rose joints. So this is a three-quarter rose joint, and these bushes I've stepped it down to taking a 12mm bolt because I didn't want to run a huge bolt through there, but at least that's a chromoly three-quarter rose joint, so it's big and heavy, strong, overkill, but that's what we're going for, so we don't have any dramas later on. So I think I'll get into making up that housing for the bearings and I've got that housing pretty close to the size for the bearing. These bearings are obviously metric, but my lathe and my measuring tools are imperial, so this is 52mm, which works out to be 2 inch and 47 thousandths of an inch, so you can measure that. And then measure the internal bore of where I'm at, which should be slightly under. So we want 47, and we're at 32. So pretty close. A few thou to go, so I'll take one more little skim off that and we should be pretty right. So that's the housing for the bearings for the middle of the rocker machined up. Came out pretty good, happy with that. I've just pressed the shells in there. Tolerance is pretty good. Has a 10mm shoulder in the middle to separate the bearings and have give them something to pull up against. So the bearings obviously sit in there like that. I'll make up a spindle that will be welded to the chassis to hold those, and then a retainer probably drilled and tapped the end of it with a nice retaining washer and a big cap screw or something to hold that together. So it looks pretty massive, but that's alright. I think it's still going to look alright. It ends up being a very similar width to the end of the shock anyway, so the body of the rocker kind of needs to be that wide. So by the time I weld the plates on there, and the plates are relatively big anyway, so it won't look too ridiculous once it's all together. So yeah, stoked on that. I'll probably start drawing up some plates for the rocker now, so I can cut them out. And I've also started drawing the top arms, so I'll try and finish them off and cut some parts out to make up the top arms as well. And then obviously put that one together, fully weld that one. Yeah, lots of stuff to carry on with, but yeah, see what happens. Cheers. So this is the part of the chassis that I've made up. I want to sort of get this put in this side of the chassis, so then I can start converting all the mocked up pieces from that side into proper parts on this side without pulling that side apart. So I've got that as a reference, even though I've drawn it all. I'd still just like to have that as a reference so I can envision it all on the chassis. So yeah, this is that part of the chassis that I've drawn up. You can see it nicely meets with the original chassis at either end. So it has two plates, two 3mm plates. The outer is sort of doubles as, looks cool, and also like a fillet plate. So I will cut the chassis at the point of the rear solid plate, so I'll cut it there and there, and leave the outer skin. So this outer plate will get welded to the original part of the chassis, and then I'll make up plates top and bottom to follow that. I'll probably leave the this top skin of the chassis behind, so it will stay inside this new piece of chassis, but I will obviously cut the bottom out and cut the inside edge out and make another one of these. Haven't made the inside of one of these yet because it's not going to be the same, because I'm going to have to put some cross members in for the engine mount and for steering rack mounts and things. So I want to mock all that up so that I do these cutouts in such a way that there's a solid section around where those cross members are going to go. So I'll do that. I'll get the top and bottom skins in and all the suspension stuff mocked up before I do the inner skin, because then I can have the engine and the steering rack and stuff mocked up. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and cut this outer section of the chassis out and tack this plate in, so then I can draw up and cut some plates top and bottom. The same thing with the plate on the top. I'll probably cut the solid one and put that in there, and then this top plate I want to do cutouts in as well, but then the cutouts will have solid sections for where the top arm mounts and the rocker mounts are going to go. So I want to make it all look nice, make it all sort of integrated, so there's nothing that looks like it's an afterthought and that everything's done nicely, is the idea of the project. So I wanted it to all look cool and look well, and make sure it's all thought out properly, so it all comes together seamlessly is the plan. Alright, well that's the chassis cut out and the plate sitting in there. Fits in there perfectly. Nice and flush. So now I can cut I'll take that in place, cut the bottom section out, and then like I say, make up a top and bottom plate, and then I can start making up the top mounts for the arms. So cool, excited. Bit of progress. It's slow progress, but it's progress nonetheless, and it's not a fast process. I want it to be right, and I am busy doing other jobs, so yeah, just when I get time, but slow and steady.